So thank you to everyone who suggested that we go over cemetery gates for this series. You're one step ahead of me. And there's a lot we could talk about in this passage. You know, I'm kind of tempted to make everything into a free stroke sound study and arpeggio study. And you could certainly do that here. But I'm going to use this section of music to focus on bar chord technique. And not just playing a bar chord and then, going along your business, but maintaining a difficult bar chord shape that involves stretching and changing chords and really executing a healthy bar chord technique. Which is what we have to do in that passage right there. So, funny story about this passage. And, this is something that, to me, when I play it, it feels like it's right out of a classical guitar piece, like the Allred Concerto or something like that, where the composer knows everything that they're doing, everything that they're putting you through, but it really is necessary to achieve a really nice musical effect. And I remember first coming upon this song when I was in high school, because you'd hear it on the radio. And I got a hold of a guitar magazine that had the tabs and notation in the back. So I started to look at it and I thought, okay, that first chord's interesting. I'd never played that before, that's not an easy bar chord. Or it's not as easy as they get, And then I keep reading and I get to this part. And when I got to that, I just thought, well, this is impossible. Like, this has to be multi-tracked or something. Nobody can play that. I'd never seen anything like that before. Never encountered a passage like this in the electric guitar music I'd played up to that point, because I never studied Dimebag Darrell and his guitar parts. So this is a very difficult passage. Still one that I screw up a lot, but it's a good opportunity to talk about a couple of tips that I can give you to strengthen your bar chords and to get them to ring better. And then after that, I'll tell you where you can find more material about how to practice this passage in particular if you're having trouble, and how to strengthen your bar chord technique without wearing out your hand, because you don't want to get an injury or have prolonged soreness or anything like that. So the first tip that I can give you is probably the most important when it comes to bar chords. Have your bar finger be right snug up against the fret wire. It looks like, if I'm going to do a bar here on the second fret, it looks like my bar finger is on top of the fret wire. You can't see it. If there's space there, that means you're making the bar more difficult than it has to be. So, I try and feel like almost like my fretboard hand, sliding in this direction until it runs into the fret wire, and I can feel it snug up against my bar finger. And anytime I have a student and they're doing a bar chord and I can see some space, it's an easy thing to see, and something that I can always say, you're making your bar chord more difficult than it has to be, because bar chords are difficult anyway. So no matter your bar shape, be sure that your finger is snug up against the bar fret, or the fret wire when you bar, rather. And that will make it easier to press down, and it will make the strings ring out more, because you don't just want to make a bar and get kind of, some notes ringing. You want all the notes to ring nice, as if they weren't being barred, as if they're being played by a normal finger. And this applies to any note that you play, really. You want to be right behind the fret. That's the sweet spot. Unless you're going for, something else particularly. But the most important thing that I can tell you about bars, be right next to the fret, regardless of your bar finger. What strings you're barring with your bar finger. And sometimes when I'm catching the first or second string back here, I have to make sure it's snug up against the fret. Those get me sometimes. And if I get a sound like this, I'm like, oh, I'm not snug against the fret. There it is. The next tip that I can give you is find some other areas that you can draw strength from besides just here. You don't want to play every bar chord that you have to play by just squeezing between these two fingers, because that's probably going to give you problems. It certainly has given me problems in the past. And how I got around that was learning to find strength using, kind of other parts of my body and visualizing them coming from other areas and then being able to draw on that. So you're not just all required to fret the whole bar chord by squeezing, by pinching. So what do I mean by that? Well, I've heard some people describe it as some strength coming this way, like if you pull your shoulder back and your arm does this. So if you fret a bar chord and you pull the shoulder back, you can feel the strength of it pulling the guitar in this direction. I've heard other people describe it as like their arm being drawn towards the floor. So they feel like their elbow is being pulled towards the floor, and it kind of pulls their hand down, and it gives them like a weighted strength to help them find more strength in bar chords. And these are just two areas that I would feel out for yourself, and then decide, when I pull my shoulder back, it really gets the bar to set into place. Or, when I let my elbow drop to the floor, it just makes everything ring nice. And figure out where to draw that strength from so that you don't have to pinch as much here. And a cool thing you can try when you're doing this is take your thumb off the back of the neck and see if you can figure out how to get bar chords to ring. So you're completely removing this mechanism that maybe you've relied on in the past to make your bar chords. But if you don't have it, try out some angles, moving your elbow around, feeling it in your shoulder, things like that, to find new areas of strength that you can actually, get bar chords to ring without even using your thumb at all. Okay. Now, when you apply your thumb back to the neck, you can just place it on the back, use it for positioning, and you kind of use it for maybe counter pressure. Not where the thumb squeezes first, but, it kind of comes towards the index finger a little bit. Just kind of as a reaction, not as a kind of an instinct where it just squeezes as hard as it can. Using these things, you can start to find what is actually a new position. I mean, maybe you already know how to fret a chord like this and you've been working on it. But if you find a new angle for your elbow, that's a new position. If you find a new area to draw strength from, you're exercising a new position, a new aspect of your technique. So if you're struggling with a passage like this, finding a new bar chord position, new bar chord technique will really help you to develop that. It's probably one of the things that you need to do to strengthen your bar chords. Find a stronger bar chord position. So those are just a couple of things you can do to improve your bar chords. Now, if you're looking for practice methods for how do you develop a passage like this, how do you work the stretching? How do you work the coordination? What if you want to practice it, but your hand is fatigued and you don't want to overdo it? Then how do you practice it? If you're looking for solutions like this, head over and join the A Guitar community, because there you'll be able to view the companion video where I will show you a couple of different exercises to practice a passage just like this. So when you're working on a piece of music and you say, here's a difficult bar chord section, I want to learn this, I want it to be smooth and sound nice, I'll show you some things that you can apply, some things that I use when I work this very passage, because this is a very difficult passage for me to pull off, so that you can work on all areas of your bar chord, not just the strength, but the dexterity, the stretching, feeling out of shape like this, and getting more comfortable with it so that it doesn't just, kill your hand by the time you're done. You can actually be a little bit comfortable there, feel the moves better, and execute it more like, you were executing something that didn't involve a bar, something that was less strenuous. Here are the 4 chords in this passage. I'll play them for you slowly, one at a time. Okay, second chord. Third chord. And the fourth chord. The right hand technique that I use to play this is I just strum the bottom 5 strings with my thumb and then do A, M, I on the first 3 strings. A, M, I, A, M, I. So thumb, and then A, M, I, A, M, I, thumb. A, M, I, A, M, I, thumb. A, M, I, A, M, I, thumb. A, M, I, A, M, I. And then for the last chord, I just strum all 6 strings with the thumb, because you're done.